You really only need one other person to start a book club. Anywho, I think it's time to go to book club. Book club is this Thursday. I know I've shared bits and pieces of book club, like what I'm doing, I'm cooking, or I'm setting up for book club, but I don't think I've ever gone into depth the planning, the organization, the thought process that goes into hosting a book club meetup. However, I think I'll start this video with what you need to even start a book club, because starting a successful book club requires a couple of elements to fall into place. I have always wanted to be part of a book club. I remember shortly after college, I, started reading again. I had a little bit more time on my hands, and I didn't have anybody to talk to about these books. I remember explaining to my husband what was happening in the book so that I'd have somebody to talk to. But obviously, he tried having a conversation with me about the book, but it's just not the same. Like, you want the person you're talking to have read the book. I remember starting a book club when I lived in LA. And I think it might have been just myself and one other person who read the book, but it didn't work out. Therefore, we never did set a date to discuss the book. Now, I know we're used to seeing social media and there's just a huge group of women gathering to discuss a book. That is just the image that I think most people have in mind. That is what a successful book club is. However, in reality, you really only need one other person to start a book club. But this person is a unique person. This is the problem that people run into when trying to start a book club. The people. What do I need to do? Do I need to camp out in front of a Barnes & Noble to find members, to find people who want to join my book club? So this unique person needs to be an avid reader. Someone who loves reading just as much as you do. Book club would be an absolute failure if I had started a book club with my sister. She is the first one to tell you she is not a reader, and that's okay. Most people aren't. Most people don't have the time to read. Most people don't make time to read. If I had started a book club with my sister, I swear we would only meet every 6 months, because I maybe at most finds 2 out of the 12 books we read in 1 year interesting. Interesting enough to finish. My sister is a member of the book club I host. Not to get off topic here, but she's what I like to call a drifter. This person doesn't make it to every book club meetup. Maybe they started the book and didn't finish it, but they're still willing to come to book club and contribute to the conversation. The purpose of book club is to read books we normally wouldn't read. It's meant to expand our minds. I might have mentioned this in my last vlog, but our October read for book club is Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. And I'm gonna be honest, I would have never picked this book up. It was not on my radar. The reason this unique person needs to be a lover of all books is that they have to be willing to read a book they wouldn't normally read. For me, romantic fantasies are it's just not my thing. It's not. I don't know why. I might just be too old for it, but yeah. It's not my thing. However, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe exactly 2 years ago, we decided to read the first book in the ACOTAR series, and I'm really glad we did. I read it, I did like it, I gave it a chance, but I didn't like it enough to finish the series, and it's okay. Like, that is the point of book club, is that we get to read things we wouldn't normally read. You're not gonna like every book. You're not gonna stick to one type of genre. You get my point. So even though I just said you only really need one person to start a book club, I do feel that the magic number is 3 members. That is the secret number. 3 people give you different perspective. You have more of a well-rounded conversation when you have 3 versus 2. If you have one person asking the questions and the other person answering, it just kind of feels like a teacher-student situation. Now, if 3 members is not possible, you can still make it work with 2 until you can find a 3rd. You can make it work with 2, but that just means that you both have to contribute to book club evenly. So, if you're gonna host this month, then I'm gonna host next month. Or you can divvy up the work. Like, okay, we're gonna have it at your house, you can cook. How about I come up with the discussion questions? So if there's 2 people in a book club, both people just have to contribute. I remember our book club started with just 3 people. It was my gender reveal. And I just was casually chatting with 2 friends who I have known for years. And we were just talking about the books we were currently reading. And I remember going to sleep that night. Wait, I wonder if they'd be interested in starting a book club. And sure enough, they did. And it was kind of a snowball effect. Like, someone invited their sister-in-law, and then a friend of a friend was invited, and my sister eventually joined, and then before you know it, we had a solid 5 to 6 people coming to book club. I feel like that's how it should happen. Casually talking about the books you're reading, not the shows you're watching, the books you are reading. And I feel like anytime it was forced, a book club, talking about a book, trying to get someone to read a book, it just never worked out. I'm blessed in a sense because I am part of 2 book clubs. I have the one that I started with my friends, and then I have a second with my sister-in-law and her friends. I remember when I first moved back here to where I'm currently living, she invited me to a book club meetup, and I just found myself just so enthralled with the host. She did an amazing job hosting a book club meetup. It was just so smooth, fun. I learned firsthand from the woman who hosts that book club what it means to be a good book club host. Two nights ago was my sister-in-law's book club meetup for October, and we discussed the book The Berry Pickers by Amanda Peters. The book is about a 4-year-old girl who goes missing from a blueberry field, and you see throughout the book over time how this tragedy shapes this family, but you can already guess there's a lot of pain and guilt. It's a very sad story. I'm really happy with the ending, but it's still a really sad story. Really, really sad. So if I could give this book a 3.5, I would. I'm just gonna round it up and give it a 4. I liked it. I mean, it was well written. It's just sad. It's just really sad. Yesterday, I talked about how in order to start a successful book club, you really only need one person. And that person may have a friend or a coworker or a family member who is also an avid reader, and they'll invite them too. Now, from there, I feel like that's when you can start inviting drifters, the people who may not be as committed. Over time, your group will grow. Sometimes it's better just starting with a very small group. The second element that needs to fall into place is that someone in the group, most likely the person who created the book club, needs to be a Virgo. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. It has nothing to do with your astrological sign, but the person does in fact need to be a planner. This person is taking the initiative by researching books. It's always nice to just have someone pick a date and say, hey, we're meeting on this day, who can make it? And that is already enough. It's just to get the ball rolling. So a week before the meetup, I try to text everybody a week before the meetup, but what I'll do is I'll text everyone in the group, and it also kind of serves as a reminder in case some of them are maybe halfway through the book and just haven't finished it yet. But it serves as a reminder like, hey, we are meeting in 1 week. And during that week is where the bulk of the planning for the actual book club meetup takes place. Lucky for me, this month I am not hosting book club, which gives me a little bit of a break because I've hosted book club at my house July, August, September, 3 months in a row. So this month I was like, you know what? Let's switch things up. Normally, it's pretty easy to find food ideas in the books that we're reading. Last month, we read The Briar Club, and that book, I believe every chapter started with a recipe. They knew what they were doing with that book. That book is meant for women to read at a book club. We turned it into a potluck. It was super fun. Everyone brought a dish. Let me look up this next book. Earlier this year, we read the book, The Best We Could Do. That book talks about the Vietnam War and a Vietnamese American family. So I figured, oh, this is fun. We can just order takeout. And we did. We ordered pho and fresh spring rolls. In January, we read The Covenant of Water, and that story takes place in India. So Indian food, it was. It worked out. But sometimes it's not so obvious. Like the book that we read this month, Wrong Place, Wrong Time, food was not mentioned at all. So our host is making us a seasonal dish. Hopefully a fall soup. It's just the perfect weather right now. I've been craving soups, so I'm hoping for a soup. She did also mention a pot pie, and that would also be good. I love hosting. I love hosting at my home. I feel like the more I do it, the better I get at it. I do like to switch up the environment. Like it doesn't always have to be at my house. Give other members an opportunity to host. Not everybody has to host, it's just whoever would like to. And give everyone a change of scenery. As I said, I've hosted for the last 3 months. Now one of the members is hosting for October, and I think for November it'd be fun to go to a restaurant, like sit down, talk about the book, and maybe we can go and do like an activity out in town. My next topic, activities. Now, to get people to want to come every month, you gotta keep things interesting. Of course, like the reason we're all coming is we wanna talk about this book. Sometimes having some sort of an activity or an icebreaker or a conversation starter. I don't want you to think that you have to spend a lot of money. You really don't. I remember going to my first book club meeting with my sister-in-law, and I remember the activity or conversation starter was quite easy. Like it was really simple. We were reading the book. Let me look it up because now the name is getting away from me, but it's the Lincoln, I can't remember the name of the book, but I will pop it here, an image of the book when I figure it out. She had a bowl of pennies, and she had everyone around the table pick a penny, look at the year of when that penny was made, and share with everyone a memory from that year. And I thought, wow, it's nice. Like, it's just a nice touch. It's not just all about the books. I've done this twice now where I'll bring like a bowl of M&Ms or Skittles, and each color represents a question. So everybody around the table will pick a color, and then they have to answer that question, which those questions are unrelated to the book. It's really just a conversation starter to get people to open up and, you know, for us to learn something about one another. I remember in January, because it was the start of the year, I printed out a bunch of passion roadmaps from the passion planners, and I just had everyone fill it out, and we all shared our dreams and goals for 2024. I remember the year before that, we made a vision board. We just cut up magazines and then glued it on a piece of paper, and it was great. Like, everyone had a good time. It was fun and inexpensive. There are a couple of times in the year where the meetup is a little bit more extravagant. For instance, in July, it is our anniversary, and I feel like we try to go big and do some sort of activity. This year it was flower arrangements. I bought these like really cute metal flower containers that look like it belongs in a flower shop. I bought those. I had a little DIY project. I bought some artificial flowers and I cut them up and hung them from the ceiling. And then I had everyone bring a bundle of flowers to contribute. I made it extra special because it was our anniversary. As I said earlier in the vlog, like, she really taught me how to be a good book club host. And that is why I will always have something to do before we start talking about the book. Tonight's book club meetup, actually, maybe I should talk about what the book is about. I did mention it in last week's vlog, but the book is called Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. It's about a mom who witnesses her son commit a crime. Now, it kind of has a Groundhog Day plus Sherlock Holmes vibe, where as the reader, and even the mom actually, she's trying to figure out what the heck happened. Like, why did her son do something like this? When the crime happens, she goes to sleep and she wakes up a day before the crime. When she goes to sleep that night, she wakes up 2 days before the crime, and so forth. Since this book is a mystery, I thought it would be fun to order a murder mystery game. Obviously, this case is unrelated to the book, but the fact that, like, in the book, she's actively trying to figure out what the heck happened, the act of us like trying to crack a case here would be the perfect activity for this month's book. This particular case is from this company called Cryptic Killers. I ordered this from Amazon and they had pretty good reviews. So it's a cold case. It's properly sealed. Once you open it, then have access to all the evidence. I think there's 30 pieces of evidence. And then there's also like an online portal that you can go into and look up stuff there as well. This one is rated a 4 out of 5 for difficulty, and it supposedly takes up to 3 hours to solve, which is why book club tonight is starting an hour early. I want us to be done with this case, with this activity by 9:30, and hopefully that would give us an hour to an hour and a half to discuss the book. So this particular case, let me read it to you. It's July 4th, 1927. Astrid Pelham fell from the top floor balcony of the luxurious Mervale Manor, impaling her body on a statue below. The cause of her death remains a mystery, shrouded in whispers of murder, suicide, and even supernatural intervention. Armed with new evidence, it's your job to piece it all together and work it out what it was that killed the victim. Really cool, right? We've never done anything like this. I've heard of these types of games, but first time doing something like this, and I really hope that it's a good one. Last year, October, when we read Notes on an Execution, that book was more so about the psychology of a serial killer. So his childhood, his upbringing, his family history. For that book, I ended up just making a game. I mean, it was more so like a guessing or matching game. Had their names typed out, and then if you're into true crime, you would probably recognize some of those serial killers' names. And then I had a description of their childhood typed out on the right side. And so everyone had to match which serial killer matched with what childhood. So that game was more on theme for that book. Since I'm not hosting at my house, I need to make sure that I don't forget my bag of stuff. This is really gonna feel like detective work because I am bringing an easel, a cork board. I should bring some not thread, but some sort of rope or twine, or I don't have red rope though. And I feel like that stands out against a cork board. Anywho, getting off topic here. I need to bring thumbtacks, pens, Sharpies, sticky notes, pads of paper. I think that's it. I hope I'm not forgetting anything. Now that we have the location, food is taken care of, the activity ready to go, I have a list of discussion questions. Now, I do a little bit of research when it comes to the discussion questions. It's really easy to find discussion questions for a book. Normally, it's questions that can be found at the back of the book, like the very last page. You just go online and you look up the book discussion questions and something will come up. I don't normally just stick to one. I like to cherry pick the questions that will spark the most conversation. I also use ChatGPT. Sometimes I have questions of my own. It's a nice mix of questions. I don't like the questions that feel like a test or a quiz. That's not the reason why we're here. I want to ask questions that are introspective and personable. Anywho, I think it's time to go to book club. I forgot the cork board. I really need to stop doing this because, I've already accepted the fact that my memory is poop since becoming a mom. This is what I do. I remember that I'm supposed to grab something, and then I tell myself, don't forget it. But then I forget. Why, when I was talking about it earlier in the day, why didn't I just take it out of the closet and immediately put it in the car or at least by the garage door? Anywho, it was fine. I got lucky because the host had a table big enough to lay out all the evidence, so it worked out. As I said earlier in this video, this was my first time playing a murder mystery game like this, and I rate it a 10 out of 10. I would do this again. And I think the overall consensus with the group was we should do this again. It doesn't have to be a book club night. We can just make it a girls' night in. It was so much fun. I don't want to go into detail about the case because I don't want to spoil it for anyone who would want to do this with their friends. We're going to plan another murder mystery night and just get together sometime after the holidays. So for next time, I think there's a couple of things to remember in case you're playing this game with your friends. I think it's important to have a designated note taker for the group. Of course, everyone had a paper to write out their own notes, but I was filling out the sticky notes for the whole group. And then simultaneously, I spent way too much time trying to access the online evidence. Why me? Why do I do this to myself? Like, why do I put myself in that position when I'm like the least tech savvy person? Like, going through a website is not my thing. So I think figuring that out at the start is helpful so that everyone can contribute to the case. Because I do feel like I spent a little too much time trying to find the like login, the username, the password to access the online evidence. But overall, it was such a good time that we probably talked about our October book for less than 15 minutes, but we all enjoyed it. And then here are my thoughts about Wrong Place, Wrong Time. Putting myself in the protagonist, Jen, in her position, like if my son committed a crime at 18 and there's no context other than me as a mother knowing that my son would never do something like this, but he did. I could relate to Jen in that aspect. Like I felt that I read this that I read this at the right place, right time in my life. Jen is going back in time to figure out how could I raise someone who could commit such a crime so detrimental to his future. Where did I go wrong? If I had a choice, I would never travel back in time just for the fear that I could change the future. This is definitely one of those situations where I would. But yeah, I like this book. I give it a 3 out of 5. An easy read. I like a story about time travel. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I know the biggest issue with starting a book club is simply finding members. We did have someone in my book club start a book club with her college friends, but because they all don't live in the same place, they're doing it virtually quarterly. So that's an idea too. And then that same friend went to Japan and she got all of us bookmarks. So cute. Like I love that. I want to make that a tradition. Like anytime I go somewhere, I want to like try to find bookmarks for the group. I did cut just 2 pictures from that night and included it in my journal. I also wrote a review here. I'm pretty much up to date on my journal. I'm pretty pleased with that. There are some empty gaps, but it's fine. In terms of my reading goals, I am still reading Yellowface. I had to put that book down this week so I could finish reading my book club books, but now I'm ready to pick it up again. I read a good chunk last night before bed. I hope to read tonight and hopefully, fingers crossed, finish it by tomorrow. I think I mentioned last week that I was only going to give myself 2 books next month because we're reading Babel for Big Book Energy. So I want to give myself time to absorb all of that. But I just found out a couple days ago that for my sister-in-law's book club, we're reading 11/22/63. You guys, this is a Stephen King novel about a time traveler who attempts to prevent the assassination of JFK. Yes, I'm reading another time traveling book. But this book is a 30-hour listen. It's almost 900 pages. So I have 2 heavy reads this month, plus a book with my 10-year-old niece. Last time we read Firefly Summer, and this time we're reading The Wild Journey of Juniper Berry. So fun.